This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com.
Hi, this is Chandler Rose, and today I have the lovely Sulema here, and this video will address back pain by working on the chest, and I'll show you some different modalities that I use in my practice to address the muscles in the chest area to help alleviate pain and tension in the back and neck. At the beginning of every session, I like to take a breath and set an intention. Today, the intention is to address the muscles in the chest to help alleviate tension in the back. And as I start and breathe, I just want to assess the body position. And Sulema, you can just let your body be completely relaxed, almost like it's full of sand. Just weighted into the table, and start taking some slow, relaxed, deep breaths. And as I move your arms or your head, you can just relax into those movements. And I like to first start just by placing a little pressure on the shoulders and feeling out the position of the shoulders. And if you're massaging at home, just notice the position of the hands here. Are they turned up towards the sky? Are they kind of curled in, which is really common? Most of us, we are using these muscles a lot to work, to drive. Maybe you're a student and you're studying a bunch and your shoulders are forward. This is a very good way to help address neck and back pain that might be nagging at you. So I'm just slowly taking my hands down to the shoulder corners, and then I'm just going to start with the right side by readjusting her palm, and you can just let that elbow relax as well. And if this position doesn't feel comfortable for you or safe, you can always turn the hand in, and then you have the shoulder back in that position, but the hand is just gently supported with the abdomen. And I'm going to do the same thing. She's got some great flexibility, a little hypermobility I'm noticing in her elbows, so I think it's probably better for her to just have her hands like this for now until I open up the pec muscles. So in Swedish and Lomi techniques, a lot of times you'll have this warming up period when you're starting a massage and cool down. So right now I'm just warming up the tissue a little bit. It's also a good place to cradle or hold the neck and head, and I'm just going to cradle her occiput. And I love using my handmade oils, Rosie's Remedy. This one is my beach blend. It's very gentle. It's got cocoa butter and lavender and a little vanilla in it, so it's very good for relaxing and touching in. And I can tell from just a moment of working on her traps that she definitely has tension in her upper back, maybe even some pain associated with that tension. So with Swedish, the intention is to open the body with a palm or pressure that feels very nurturing. Swedish typically is more on the slow side. It's usually the first modality that a massage therapist may learn when they go to massage college. It's definitely a common term. And after I learned Swedish, I started studying different modalities to see what was out there for opening up the chest and pecs. And I went to Hawaii to study Lomi Lomi, which feels kind of similar, but you're not using your palms. You're using your forearms. So with the chest area, you want to be aware of the heart and where the heart is, more in the left quadrant. This also can bring up some emotion for people. It is a very vulnerable space. So make sure your drape around the chest is comfortable and secure. And also notice if when you move into the body, if there's any resistance happening, if there's a reaction, and if there is, I would say take your pressure back a little bit and encourage a deeper breath in your client and maybe yourself. Sometimes if you don't want to talk during your session, you can simply breathe intentionally, and that cue will also remind your client to breathe and just let things open up. It's very interesting because a lot of people, when they get a massage, I feel like they're thirsty. It's kind of like if you're dehydrated and you get thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And for massage, a lot of times people don't get a treatment until they're sort of dehydrated. They're lacking this mobility and this flexibility in their tissue. And so they will request a session that just focuses on the back, because usually the pecking order for pain in the body and how it shows up for people is just simply feeling like they need an hour spent on just their upper back. And I'm not saying that's not okay. I'm just saying if you are treating the body holistically and you really want to make a change, I recommend checking in on the pecs and the pec attachments. So you can check in with your Swedish strokes. You can open the tissue with your Lomi techniques. And then more directly, you can use trigger point, which is stacking the thumbs. This has been a researched neuromuscular technique, which will allow these points of connection to open. And depending on your client and what they prefer here, this may be deep or maybe it's superficial. Like for her, she's kind of like me, actually. I have a certain amount of natural flexibility in the body, so I don't require a huge amount of pressure for change. Humans are interesting in the way that we carry ourselves and our tissue. Some of it's genetic, some of it's due to posture, some of it's due to overuse. But the side of feeling malleable or movable in the tissue has a lot to do with practice and water intake. So to me, it feels like she takes good care of her body. She drinks a lot of water. It feels like she stretches. And so my pressure doesn't have to be very deep to make an impact or make these tissues or help them stretch. So trigger point, specific. The brain can follow it. Not very comfortable, not very fun. It kind of puts us into the flex zone of having to adjust to something uncomfortable. And comparing that to Lomi or Swedish, it's the opposite in how it feels and how it's delivered. So Lomi or Swedish offers this zone, this comfort zone where you're just drifting off, maybe falling asleep. And trigger point, in comparison, is bringing your attention to that area, breathing through it, kind of like doing a yoga posture that you're not very good at. Maybe you're not very strong yet. And so you have to have a sort of discipline to continue to work in that area. And what I feel is very effective, or most effective in my sessions, is having a variety of techniques. And specifically in this video, we're addressing back pain from the other side of the body, which a lot of people aren't doing yet. So please encourage yourself or your client or your friend to get pec work, to even working on yourself. Pecs, you know, they're in a good place where you can use your opposite hand to address the pec area just simply by doing little circles in the pecs. This is really easy to do on yourself. You know, maybe you're waiting in line or in an area where you're just having to be patient, or maybe you have a stretching routine every day, 10 minutes before bedtime. Take a moment to do some circles in the pecs. This is a petrissage technique, which is a Swedish technique. Also, pec stretches can be very important for people with back pain, something that I definitely like to show in a video at some point, because people get so focused on how their back is feeling that they just really don't have an idea of how tight their pecs are. So be mindful, this work can be tender, especially around the heart cavity, similar to camel pose or cobra. It can feel intense, it can bring up stuff. These oils are so helpful to offer this natural, supplemental, anti-inflammatory. Very good for relaxation, very good for encouraging the parasympathetic system, the mechanisms that allow us to fall asleep, the mechanisms that allow us to really let go of what we need to do and be in this present moment. Something also to mention is that this is a good way that will encourage a Lomi principle, which is makia. Attention goes where energy flows, or energy flows where your attention goes. So if you're energetically working on opening the chest, you will allow more opening in the whole body. Working in the chest cavity when you are intentional will really help assist in the process of breathing, each intercostal, each muscle between each rib, that job of that muscle is to allow the rib cage to expand. And over time, when we're stressed from stimuli or from work or from just being in the world, these intercostals can just start to lock up. So when you're working in this area, you're affecting the structures below the ribs and the structures between the ribs, these intercostals that really can allow for a deeper breath. Now that we have the pecs more open, the intercostals more open, and the shoulders a little more open, I'm gonna take a seat here and work a little deeper on her upper traps, what we're looking to affect with this work. Take a little more of Rosie's remedy and just start to assess her upper traps. Ticklish? Yeah, okay. So ticklish in massage terms means tight. It means those muscles are sort of locked in a certain position. Some people feel it as pain and tenderness, and some people feel it as ticklishness. What I've noticed after working on many ticklish people over the years is that when you're using finger pressure, so I was doing this petrissage or kneading to open the tissue, that kneading pressure will cause ticklishness. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but you definitely need to relax the back a little more if you want your person to be able to handle that kind of pressure. So what I'm gonna do instead of this petrissage, this Swedish technique, is just simply holding. So I have my fingers in this position that you've probably seen before, and I'm just tractioning a little bit up towards the head. And the best thing for her to do, which she's already initiated, is just breathing. And if you have someone holding their breath, maybe they're so ticklish that they're holding their breath, I would give them this idea to breathe in to the count of 5 and out to the count of 12. It makes the emphasis about letting go of that sensation, allowing the body to know that this is a safe space to relax. And she mentioned before that she feels it more on her left than her right sometimes. And I can definitely feel that now, like her upper ribs on her left side have a little more tension. And ticklishness is okay. So if you have someone that even laughs through the session, that's okay too, because you are making a change and that laughter is expelling energy as well. It's a process. I have a client that has the tightest hamstrings you've ever seen, and she just seems like it's hilarious when I work on them because she is just hysterically laughing, which I guess is better than, it being so painful that she's gonna cry. I don't want that. But usually it's because the fascial casing, the casing over the tissue, is so dense that the sensation comes off as a ticklish feeling and not as a painful feeling. So when you relax the case of the muscle, our muscles are all in these little suitcases of fascia. When you relax the case and you get into the muscle belly, it can start to feel less ticklish and more like tenderness. And when you're working on tenderness, as long as it's not deep pain, you're in the flex zone, so you're making a change. And I can still feel her left trap is a little bit locked here. So I'm just gonna take my fingers in this position and hold and cradle this area. I'm so glad we opened up the pecs first, because that first layer, those attachments, the relationships are a little different than just going straight into the back. And the head is interesting, the neck is interesting in the way that people often try to hold their head up when I work on their neck. We're just not used to someone else being in sort of control of where our body is moving, and it takes a little time to just relax into that space of receiving. So right now I'm just cradling the occiput. This, along with any work in the trapezius, crosses over to many different modalities. Lomi, this is important work. It's important for the prayer portion of your session. In trigger point therapy, these are all trigger points that can be addressed. That will help with headaches or back pain. In Swedish, this is just a common area that people want worked on. So you can start to integrate your knuckles a little bit here. Just some sweeping will help stretch things out. And I do sense that maybe it's been a while since she's had this worked on, and a lot of times that's going to feel more sensitive as well. A couple more sessions, she probably won't feel any more ticklishness or pain. We'll have opened up that first layer. So as I'm winding down to move into our next portion of this massage, where Sulema will be prone, she'll be laying the other way so I can address the back more specifically. Just gonna take a few last moments to just offer the trapezius a little more stretch here. And I'm really looking forward to working deeper into her back and feeling what connections we've made here that will allow for more opening in the back, more length in the back. And now we have the shoulders in a very good open position. I'm going to have you lay with your palms facing up just for a last few moments of stretch. So let your hands be at your sides with your palms up. Good. Perfect. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.
Many of our subscribers don't see our videos. Make sure that you click the notification bell.
Introducing Yoga Plus, offering a free series every month with over 300 different videos. Take control of your health. Work out anytime, anywhere. Yoga Plus. Download now for free.